Hello, and welcome to Dreamtime Discoveries. Take a deep breath and let it go. You've arrived in a quiet space where science becomes a soft whisper and the universe unfolds in gentle waves. Here, we don't rush. We drift slowly through questions older than time and wonder that lingers like starlight. Tonight's chapter is part of a series, a calm exploration of reality, told like a bedtime story. Each episode, a journey through the mysteries of atoms, emptiness, and the edge of everything. If this story helps you slow down or opens a little door of curiosity in your mind, you can support the journey by liking this video, sharing it with someone who also needs quiet wonder, and subscribing so you don't miss what's still to come. I also welcome your thoughts, your quiet questions, your reflections in the comments below. Your voice becomes part of this growing space. So now, settle in, dim the lights, and let your thoughts stretch across the stars. Because even in stillness, there's always something to gently discover. You begin at the edge of thought, where nothingness lies untouched. No stars, no light, not even silence, just a whisper of potential. You float through an empty canvas before time knows how to tick. This is the space before stories had stories. Before any beginning began. Close your eyes. Let your breath soften, slow, and loosen its grip on time. You are floating not in space, for space is not here yet. Not in darkness, for there is no light to be missing. You are somewhere before where was born. Before clocks, before stars, before even the smallest murmur of anything. This is not emptiness as your mind imagines it. This is a kind of stillness that holds no shape, no distance, no direction, no up or down, no sound, no silence, not even the concept of nothing, for no one exists to conceive it. Yet here, in this absence beyond absences, something stirs. A flicker, not of light, but of possibility. Not a sound, but the seed of vibration. Not a thought, but the tiniest prelude to becoming. You drift, bodiless, mind loosening. Even your idea of self begins to melt, as if the boundaries that define you never arrived. There is only this quiet, aching fullness that hides behind the curtain of nothingness. It presses gently, like a breath against a closed mouth, waiting to exhale. You float, and the floating is all there is. No heartbeat, no gravity, no beginning or end. And yet, there is tension, the smallest strain at the seam of nowhere. Not tension like stress, but like the bend of a bow just before the arrow flies. Imagine standing before an empty canvas so wide it has no edge. A canvas so blank that even blankness hasn't been invented yet. This is not the space outside, this universe. This is the pause before there is a universe at all. A waiting that has no awareness, it is waiting. Stillness hums, even when no ears can hear it. And somewhere, if the word where could exist, there lies the first hint of a spark. Not a flame, not even a flash. Just the tiniest ripple. In the rules of reality, you wonder, how can something come from nothing? But in this deep stillness, that question has no shape. It waits, like a question inside a seed, before the rain. And the answer, if it exists, is folded tightly within the question itself. Some say it began with a singularity, a point with no size, but infinite potential. Others say time itself erupted from this point, meaning before was never real. But here, in this slow drift, you don't need to choose. You only need to feel the hush that came before motion. Your breath deepens as you sense how delicate this beginning must have been. No thunder, no clash, just the soft opening of a door. That wasn't there. Like a thought arising before words can catch it. Like the hush just before the first note of a lullaby. Nothingness, as it turns out, is full of mystery. It is not a cold void, not a blank slate. It is more like a waiting womb, not lacking but preparing. Not absence, but potential too patient. To rush. As you lie here in this fast beforeness, your mind stretches. Can you feel it? The idea that time has not yet ticked once, that space has not yet curved, that matter has not yet chosen a form. And yet, from this place off nothing, everything might arise. You are at the edge of the beginning, not looking forward, but resting in the pause behind all forward motion. A breath drawn in, held long, timeless. Waiting to become wind. Here, even sleep feels sacred, because it mimics this original stillness. Your thoughts softening, your form dissolving, your awareness floating free. This is the first dream before dreaming was born. So you stay. You drift, you dissolve. And in that drifting, you begin to understand that nothing may never have existed at all. Only a fullness so quiet, so patient. We mistook it for empty. And just as you begin to wonder how something could ever come from this, you feel the smallest shift in the silence. Not an answer, not a flash, just the softest ripple, as if the void itself has started to remember a shape. And you are pulled gently toward the next question. Not what came from nothing, but why have we always feared its silence? Your mind seeks something, a shape, a sound, a sign. But nature hides her truths inside what feels like absence. You explore the myths and ancient minds that filled the void with gods. In emptiness, you meet the echoes of human longing. You wake into the feeling of something missing, a blankness that wraps around the edges of thought. Your mind begins to wander, reaching into the quiet, looking for a pattern, a shape, a reason. Because emptiness, to you, feels unnatural. Your senses are sculpted to find presence, to chase light in darkness, movement in stillness, meaning in what has not yet made itself clear. Even now, as you lie still in bed, your breath slow, your body softening, there's a part of your mind that searches the silence for sound, as if the quiet must be hiding something. This is not a weakness. It is design. Long ago, in the shadows of forests and caves, emptiness was dangerous. A rustle in the bushes might be a tiger, or nothing at all, but your survival depended on expecting something. And even when no threat was there, the space between sounds grew heavy, as if the silence itself became a presence to fear. The unknown has always stirred your imagination into myth. So early humans gave shape to the void. They named it, worshipped it, feared it, and filled it with gods. Lightning was not random. It was a signal from the sky. Darkness was not absent. It was the home of something unseen. Stories grew from silence like vines, twisting upward toward the stars. The emptiness between stars? Not empty at all. It held spirits, deities, and ancestors watching. Even now, you feel this old pulse in your thoughts. You look at a black sky and try to connect the dots, to make constellations, to invent meaning in the space between. And maybe this instinct is not wrong. Maybe the search for meaning in nothing is how all understanding begins. Not with facts, but with the ache of curiosity, because emptiness is rarely what it seems. Even a quiet room is filled with motion, air molecules dancing, light bouncing invisibly from wall to wall. The void you fear might be a veil, a curtain, not a cliff. And behind it may lie not darkness, but the soft, flickering light of something waiting to be seen. Still, the fear of emptiness lingers deep inside you. It shows itself in subtle ways, in the pause between texts, in the blank screen, in the silence after a goodbye. You fill the space with noise, music, words, scrolling thumbs that chase distraction. The modern world lets you outrun silence with ease. But the fear never disappears. It only hides. What is it about emptiness that feels so heavy? Perhaps it is the feeling of facing yourself. With no noise to cover you, you become aware of your own shape and its limits. But what if you leaned into that stillness? What if, instead of filling it, you listened to the quiet? What might you hear? Ancient mystics sat in caves for years, not to escape the world, but to sit with the void, to meet what the noise had always drowned. And there, they often found not terror, but peace. Because once the emptiness stops feeling like an enemy, it becomes a mirror. A place where thoughts echo back gently, where breath becomes sacred, where time stretches soft and long. Your fear of emptiness, then, may not be fear of nothing, but a fear of being alone with everything that waits inside. You, with the questions you haven't asked, and the answers that have no words yet. The universe, too, holds this mystery. We once thought space was empty, a cold vacuum holding distant stars like beads on invisible strings. But science now whispers. Otherwise, the void between galaxies teems with energy. Particles blink in and out of existence. Dark matter we cannot see. Dark energy we do not understand. Even the most empty parts of space may be full beyond our knowing. And so, maybe, are you so when you feel the ache of emptiness? When silence stretches long and thoughtless? Perhaps you are not lost. Perhaps you are simply standing at the threshold of something unseen. Let yourself float there. In the stillness. In the space between words. Feel the quiet not as absence, but as a presence too deep to name. And as you drift, wrapped in the comfort of not knowing, you may begin to wonder if even emptiness holds something. What might be hiding? In the space between stars? Now you drift between galaxies, where darkness rules and silence grows thick. But this isn't nothing. It's the playground of gravity and light. Even in blackness, particles flicker, unseen but never still. You begin to see that nothing is never truly empty. You are drifting again. Far from the world you know, farther still from sound and sun. You slip between galaxies, through stretches of space so wide, they make time feel small, like dust clinging. To a window-pane, this is the great in-between. The quiet sea of darkness that lies between one island of stars and the next. No planets here, no moons, no suns to warm your skin. Only blackness, vast and deep. At first, it seems like true nothing. A perfect silence. A still, empty ocean where light itself hesitates to travel. You float there as if suspended in ink, but slowly, gently, your awareness shifts. You begin to notice something subtle. A tug here, a shimmer there. The dark is not silent after all. That the emptiness between stars is not empty. It is alive with invisible threads. Gravity moves like music here, slow, low, and strong. It shapes the way galaxies swirl, how stars migrate, how matter clumps. Even in this darkness, there is a pulse. You can't hear it, not in any way your ears are built for. But your mind senses it, like a hum beneath your breath. A pattern hiding in what first seemed formless. This void is not a vacuum, not a place devoid of all. It is filled with particles, ghost-like, flickering in and out. Virtual particles, they're called. Born and gone in the blink of a law of physics. Imagine tiny sparks, appearing briefly, then vanishing again, like fireflies in a forest at night. Only these don't light the sky, and you never quite see them. They're whispers of matter, born from the energy of the void itself. This dance is called quantum fluctuation. It means that even space left alone, utterly alone, cannot stay still. It churns, trembles, ripples, not from disturbance, but from being what it is. You realize that stillness is not simple. Stillness is layered. And sometimes, stillness is motion too small to see. A breath held not in pause, but in anticipation. Stretch your imagination wider, across light years, across centuries. You're surrounded by the intergalactic medium, a thin, nearly invisible cloud that drifts between galaxies. It's made of plasma, atoms, and particles rarer than your mind can picture. So thin, you could pass through it for a lifetime and never touch one particle with another. But still, it is there, and something else. Dark matter, mysterious, unseen, fills this space too. Not made of atoms, not touched by light, but its gravity shapes the entire universe. Without it, galaxies would fly apart like autumn leaves in the wind. With it, they hold together, spiral, dance. You cannot see it. You cannot feel it. And yet, it shapes the very space in which you float. So, you lie here now in this darkness between stars. No edges. No direction. Just the sensation of endlessness. But it no longer feels empty. It feels profound, that you are surrounded by silence that listens, darkness that holds, space that creates and destroys, even as it appears still. You think of the ancient nights on Earth, when our ancestors looked up and saw stars scattered across. Velvet, what did they imagine lay between those pinpricks of light? A god? A mystery? A silence too deep to name? Now you know a little more. Not everything, but enough to see the shadows move. Enough to understand that absence is often just a presence misunderstood. That space is not the opposite of matter, but the home that cradles it. The stars may burn brightly, but it is the dark between them that makes their light visible. The space between gives shape to the flame, like the pause between heartbeats. The rest between notes. In this blackness, you find the comfort of knowing the universe is never truly still. Even in the deepest quiet, something pulses. Even in the most distant dark, something watches. And just as you begin to settle into this understanding, that the void is vibrant, alive, full of unseen rhythms, another question begins to drift toward you like a distant wave. Where did all this begin? If space itself ripples with energy, what was the moment it all began to stir? What was the first breath, the first fire, the first sound from silence? You return to the first breath of existence, the Big Bang. From a pinprick of possibility, all things unfold like slow petals. Time stretches her fingers. Space begins to hum. The greatest something may have come from the smallest nothing. Close. Your eyes again. You are floating now at the edge of time, not in the future, but in the softest shadow of the beginning. Everything you've ever known, every grain of dust, every star, every breath, was once packed into a coin smaller than imagination allows. A single shimmer of pure potential. This is not a place. Not yet. There is no direction, no width or height. No before, no after. No ticking clocks. Only a pressure, infinite, invisible, trembling with possibility. And then it happens. Not with a sound, for there is no air to carry it. Not with a light, for there is no space for light to move through. But with a blooming, a sudden unfolding of what was hidden. The universe begins, not in violence, but in expansion. A blossoming from that point into something vast and growing. Space itself stretches, not into something, but creating itself as it expands. A fabric unfolding from within. Time is born with space. A twin thread weaving through the newness, measuring change, marking movement. And with time, a rhythm is set. Forward, onward, becoming. You drift through this newness. The earliest seconds are dense, hot, wild. Matter and energy swirl in forms too quick to last, flickering in and out like the blink of a dream. Everything is energy, furious, radiant, without structure. But within that energy, laws begin to whisper. Patterns emerge. The order waits patiently. The universe is still opaque, like fog, too thick to see through. Particles bounce and blur, too fast, too hot to hold. But they are here, the raw materials of everything to come. You watch as seconds turn to minutes. The universe cools just enough for particles to begin their quiet dance. Protons, electrons, simple, delicate pairings. They swirl, they touch. And the first atoms are born. Hydrogen, helium, light elements formed in the cradle of fire. These atoms will one day make stars. And stars will make heavier things. Carbon, oxygen, iron, gold. The elements that will become planets, oceans, trees. And you. But for now, it is still too bright to see. Photons, particles of light, are trapped in the chaos, bouncing, endlessly, unable to roam. The universe is a radiant cage. Then, after hundreds of thousands of years, a breathless stillness. Atoms capture electrons, and light at last is set free. This moment, the release of light, is the oldest light. We can still see. It travels through space even now, like a message from the baby universe to your resting mind. You may have heard its name, the cosmic microwave background. A faint glow stretched across the sky, invisible to eyes, but captured by gentle instruments. Listening to the oldest echoes. And as you float in this unfolding, you begin to feel the shape of time taking root. From nothing, a rhythm grows. Space stretches still, expanding like a breath that never exhales. Galaxies will come, stars will ignite, but here, in this moment, everything is still becoming. And you wonder, how did this something come from what felt like nothing? Some scientists say the total energy of the universe adds up to zero, that the positive energy of matter and the negative pull of gravity balance perfectly, like a hill and a valley carved from flat earth. Nothing gained, but shapes formed. Form from balance. Structure from fluctuation. Perhaps this is how something can arise from nothing. When nothing itself is unstable, restless, eager to become. And still, you wonder, not just how, but why. Why is this unfolding? Why time? Why stars? Why breath? But questions like these are not meant to be solved all at once. They are lanterns, soft lights to carry as you walk deeper into the dark. For now, you lie cradled in the gentle afterglow of a beginning. A universe that has only just taken its first breath. Its heart beating in long, slow waves as it begins to shape itself, stretch itself, remember itself. And just as you begin to rest in this warmth, you sense another mystery rising like a distant tide, a realm even smaller than atoms, where the rules of reality begin to shimmer and slip. What happens, you wonder, when even the smallest something refuses to stay still? Zoom into the very small, where certainty disappears. In the quantum world, even nothing trembles with chance. Virtual particles wink in and out, like fireflies in night fog. You find that emptiness dances with probability. Close your eyes again. Let your thoughts narrow, not out into the stars, but inward. Smaller than galaxies, smaller than atoms, smaller than anything you can see or feel or hold. Let yourself fall gently into the tiny dot here, in the world beneath the world. Reality grows strange, soft-edged, and shimmering. This is not the realm of logic and rules. This is where certainty begins to slip through your fingers. You are entering the quantum world, a place so small that even time seems hesitant to move. Here, the universe whispers rather than speaks. It hums with maybe, flickers with perhaps. Particles no longer behave like tiny marbles. They become waves. They become clouds of possibility. A single particle may exist in many places at once. Not because it travels quickly, but because it hasn't decided. You drift through this uncertainty, not lost, just quiet, like floating through fog where every droplet could be the whole sky. Things here are not fixed. They shimmer between being and not being. Imagine a cat asleep in a box, both alive and not, until someone opens the lid. It's not the cat that's confused. It's the nature of measurement, the act of seeing. That brings reality into focus. This thought experiment, Schrodinger's cat, is not about the cat at all. It's about how, in the quantum world, observation creates clarity. Until you look, the universe is a dream still dreaming. You breathe slowly, letting this strangeness settle in. It's not meant to be understood like a puzzle. It's meant to be held like a snowflake, briefly, softly, before it melts. Now float even deeper into the vacuum, the so-called empty space. But it is not empty. Even nothing is never truly nothing. The vacuum trembles. Even when stripped of all particles, all light, all heat, it fizzes with energy. Virtual particles rise and vanish, borrowing time from the universe, then slipping back into silence. They appear in pairs, a particle and its twin, opposites in charge, emerging for the briefest blink, before canceling one another and disappearing again. This is not imagination. This is measured in the Casimir effect, a force that pushes two uncharged plates together in a vacuum. Simply because the quantum world won't sit still. It is as though the silence has breath, as though the nothingness contains a rhythm that never stops beating. And what does this mean for you, here in the stillness of night? It means that even in your most empty moments, some part of the world, some part of you, is always in motion. The rules you once trusted begin to blur. Particles tunnel through walls they should not cross. They entangle, bound across space, so that one feels what the other feels, no matter the distance between. A particle on one side of the galaxy can mirror its twin on the other. A secret handshake written in the bones of reality. This is quantum entanglement, a mystery. Einstein once called spooky action at a distance. And yet it's real, measured, tested, true. The quantum world doesn't just break the rules, it writes its own, in a language we are only just beginning to hear. You lie still, your body soft against the weight of your bed, but your mind dances now, tuned to these gentle rhythms of chance and probability. Here, certainty is not needed. Here, precision is replaced with potential. A single point may contain 1,000 paths, and reality does not choose until it must. This world feels delicate, like silk threads on water, but it is the foundation of everything. Your hands, your breath, your memories, all built from this restless, rule-defying strangeness. So when you feel uncertain, when you pause at life's forked paths, when you live in the in-between, know that even the universe began in uncertainty. And in that uncertainty, it blossomed. Not perfectly, not predictably, but with wild beauty born from chance. You now return slowly from the small, upward through atoms, through cells, through organs and breath and skin. You come back to your body, still, safe, floating in silence. But part of you remains tuned to the shimmer, the quantum hush that never really stops. And as you lie there, you begin to wonder, if everything solid is born from something so uncertain, what lies hidden in the spaces within yourself? Quiet, trembling, waiting to take shape? Your body, your world, your breath, mostly made of space. Inside every atom, there is more emptiness than substance. Yet from this near nothing, solidity is born. You discover how emptiness holds everything together. You rest now, wrapped in stillness. But even as you lie so quietly, a silent universe stirs inside you. Breathe in. You are not solid the way you think. Not fixed, not firm, not whole in the way your fingers might suggest. You are a gentle gathering of atoms, each one a whisper more than a weight. Atoms make up your bones, your blood, your thoughts. But inside each atom, almost nothing. Picture a tiny sphere, the nucleus at its center, like a glowing grain of rice. Now stretch the outer edge, the orbit where electrons dance, not close, but vast, like a cathedral of space. If the nucleus were the size of a blueberry Placed in the center of a sports stadium, the electrons would orbit in the upper seats, circling mostly empty air. Over 99.999% of each atom, empty. And yet, here you are, not falling through your chair, not drifting through walls. How? The answer lies not in substance, but in energy, in the quiet forces that hold things in place, in the electromagnetic fields that sing invisible songs between the particles and keep them near, like a spider's web woven from possibility. You are solid not because atoms touch, but because they resist. Their electrons repel one another, so when you press your hand to your chest, what you feel is not matter meeting matter, but fields pushing against fields. Space inside space. Nothing inside something. And still, you feel real. Let this idea float beside you. Solidity is not a measure of mass, but a story of relationships. A balance between pull and push. A choreography of motion so fast and constant, it seems still. Atoms are mostly void, but that void is not silent. It hums with forces. It thrums with probability. It dances with intention hidden in laws older than time. The nucleus, though tiny, is dense, a center of incredible weight and energy. Protons and neutrons packed together by the strong nuclear force, a binding grip tighter than anything else in the known universe. That force is what keeps the heart of the atom together. Without it, the pieces would drift apart, and you would be nothing more than stardust in a breeze. Surrounding the nucleus, electrons don't orbit like planets. They form clouds, probability zones where they might be, but aren't. Until measured. You do not need to picture them clearly. Just imagine a soft mist, a glowing fog gently curling around the center, changing shape, shifting tones, never pausing, never still. These electron clouds repel other clouds. They define the edges of molecules, the shapes of everything, from a snowflake's crystal arms to the scent of lavender on your skin. It is from this emptiness, from these invisible forces, that form and color arise. From gaps comes structure. From absence comes patterns. So much of what you see is space. The space between stars, between atoms, between thoughts. But space is not nothing. It is a possibility. It is the canvas on which everything is drawn. As you lie still, you might wonder, how do you hold together? How does anything hold together? Atoms. Bind to atoms with unseen hands. Covalent bonds, ionic dances, van der Waals attractions. These are not just terms in textbooks. They are the tenderness with which one particle leans into another. Not too close, not too far, just enough to build the world. The molecules that make you. Proteins that fold with impossible precision. DNA that coils with messages inside are sculpted from these bonds. From the space and the dance within that space. And all of this? Still mostly empty. Your body is more than the sum of its atoms. It is a pattern of vibrations. A storm of interactions held within fields. A song written in forces you can't see but are always singing through you. The chair beneath you, the air you breathe, the earth below your home. All are made of atoms. All are made of mostly nothing, and yet they hold firm. Not because they are full, but because they are connected. You begin to see that emptiness is not the opposite of being. It is the framework that makes being possible. The atom is a tiny miracle of space and tension. It is a lesson in how presence can emerge from absence. And you, built from these atoms, are a testament to how the universe uses emptiness to shape form, to sculpt light, to cradle thought. Let this idea rest softly on your chest. That which appears to be nothing may be the very thing that holds everything. In place. And as your breathing slows, as your mind drifts through the quiet space between thoughts, you begin to wonder, if atoms hold such mysteries within, what might arise when those atoms begin to think? The vacuum, once thought empty, carries a mysterious energy. It pushes galaxies apart like invisible tides. This nothing has weight, has consequence, has power. You wonder, can absence shape the fate of the universe? You float now, not through stars, but through the spaces between them. Not flying, drifting, as if the universe itself exhales, and you are simply carried. It's quiet here, deep space quiet. A kind of hush that seems final. Until you listen more closely. It feels like nothing. Looks like nothing. The block between galaxies. The blankness between atoms. But even here, you sense something subtle, like a breath being held. The stillness isn't dead. It waits. It hums. It lives. Once people thought the vacuum was truly empty. A place of absence. No particles, no light, no sound. The cosmic off switch. A space cleared for events to unfold. But nature is rarely that. Silent. Even when she appears to be in the language of physics, a vacuum is what remains when you remove everything. Yet when scientists looked closer, they found flickers. Not from distant stars, but from the vacuum itself. A constant shimmer. Of maybe, of nearly. Of not quite real virtual particles, they're called. Popping in and out of existence, like brief sparks. They vanish too fast to see, too fleeting to grasp. But their effects are real, measurable, undeniable. Even in what seems like perfect stillness, these ghost particles dance. A constant, quiet energy pulses beneath the surface. It's not loud, it doesn't burn. But it presses outward, everywhere, always. You imagine the vacuum now, not as a void, but as a field. A restless, glowing sea of possibility. It pushes galaxies apart, not with hands, but with pressure. An invisible stretch, accelerating space like a tide that never recedes. This pressure has a name, dark energy. And though we don't fully understand it, we believe it flows from this vacuum field, this strange, vibrant emptiness that isn't empty at all. You remember gravity, the great puller, the gatherer. Dark energy is its opposite. Not a pull, but a push. Not a gathering, but a scattering dot. It acts everywhere, on everything, without a source, without a sound. Not in bursts or beams, but in a steady, quiet expansion. As if the universe itself is breathing out. And there's no inhale. Even Einstein once played with this idea. He called it the cosmological constant, a kind of balancing act in the equations of spacetime. He thought it was a mistake. But perhaps it was a whisper of something real. You begin to feel it now, the way this invisible force shapes your very context. You live not on solid ground, but on a gently expanding sea. Every step, every thought, floating in this cosmic swell. And still, it feels like nothing. No resistance, no wind, no glow. Just the calm hum beneath all things. The song. The vacuum sings to itself. You think about emptiness differently now. It isn't lacking. It's potential. It isn't silent. It's subtle. It doesn't erase. It rearranges. Even when all particles are stripped away, the vacuum remains pregnant with possibility. It cradles energy in its stillness. And that energy bends the universe. If nothing can do that, what else can it do? Could it hold the blueprint of reality? Could it remember? Could it learn? You wonder, if even the vacuum is alive with motion, then is true stillness a myth? Or perhaps a doorway? Because here's the quiet truth. You are part of this vacuum. Energy, the atoms that make you, once floated in this field. And still do. Your thoughts arise inside this space. Your breath moves through it. Your dreams flicker within its reach. You are never separate from it. And so, the empty places between stars are not so different from the quiet places inside your mind. Both pulse with something unspeakable. Both bend time, stretch space, whisper truths. The vacuum does not need you. to understand it, but still, it allows you to wonder. And in your wondering, you feel its presence more deeply. As if curiosity itself makes the vacuum more alive. So you keep floating. Softly, thoughtfully, you listen again. And in the rhythm of nothingness, you begin to sense a question forming. Not outside, but inside. If absence can create distance, could attention create closeness? If the universe is shaped by unseen pressure, what is the shape of the observer? Because, even here, in this breathless hush, you are aware, and maybe that awareness is the next force to explore. You walk through experiments wrapped in silence and shielding. Scientists tried to strip the universe bare, but something remained. No perfect vacuum, no pure nothing could ever be found. Even in lab-made emptiness, the universe whispered. Back. You walk softly now, your footsteps silent against the polished floor. Around you, thick walls hold back the world, layers of lead, of concrete, of still air. This is not just a room. It is an absence. You've stepped into a lab where scientists tried to make nothing. Not metaphorically, but literally. There. Aim. To strip the universe to its bones. To subtract every signal, every sound, every particle to see what remains when everything is removed. They cooled the space to near absolute zero. So cold that atoms barely moved. So still that time itself seemed reluctant to pass. They pumped out the air, molecule by molecule. Lights were dimmed. Electronics silenced. Surfaces polished smooth, to reflect nothing, absorb everything. This chamber became a temple of emptiness. And yet, the detectors flickered. Sensors twitched. A whisper curled through the silence. Something was still there. No noise, not interference, but a hum beneath the hush. The lab-born void refused to be pure. The universe, it seemed, would not be erased. You imagine the scientists, brows furrowed, hearts a little quickened. How can emptiness make a sound? How can silence vibrate? Their machines were not broken, their math not flawed. Instead, their experiments had touched the quiet breath of the cosmos itself. Even in their man-made vacuum, particles winked into being, then vanished, faster than a blink, but not fast enough to go unnoticed. These weren't intrusions. They were truths, virtual. Particles, born not of matter, but of possibility. A quantum dance that happens always everywhere. Even in your empty lab. Even in the black between your thoughts. The chamber was sealed. But the universe had never agreed to be locked out. And so, the nothing they created was never truly nothing. It was full of hidden rhythm. A symphony you could only hear if you listened without ears. You stand there now, breathing softly in the dark. You can feel it, can't you? That even this deep silence is busy beneath the surface. Not chaotic, just alive. Because nothingness, real, total nothingness, may not exist. Not in nature, not in space, not even in thought. Every vacuum hums. Every silence breathes. Every attempt to erase leaves behind a trace. It's as if the universe cannot help but speak, even when you ask it to be quiet. Even when you try to cover your ears. This isn't failure. It's a revelation, because maybe the lesson isn't how to subtract more, but how to understand what can't be removed. Even stripped to its barest state, space still remembers the laws that shape it. Fields still ripple. Forces still balance. The echo of creation never fully fades. You think now of those who tried to find a true void. Ancient philosophers. Modern physicists. People who hoped that if they could just remove the clutter, they would glimpse reality's foundation. But the foundation is never silent. It vibrates with being, even when no one watches. And perhaps, especially then, you sit quietly in that chamber, no light, no motion, no sound. And still, the universe unfolds around you. Still, your atoms shift. Your cells remember. You are made of stardust, yes. But you are also made of vacuum. The same vacuum that no scientist could erase. The same vacuum that hums softly now around your breath. You begin to realize emptiness is not absence. It is a stage. It has potential. It is the canvas that lets light matter. And perhaps you too are like that chamber. A vessel built to hold silence, yet filled with flickers, with thoughts, with dreams, with echoes. You think back to chapter 7, to the weight of nothing in deep space. Now you've seen that weight in the lab. I measured it. I heard it whisper. And maybe now you wonder, if nothingness resists being empty, what exactly are we standing on? What is this background hum that reality rises from? Because in the quietest places, in the most careful silences, something always answers back. And now that you've heard it, you can't undash here. So you sit a little longer in the chamber. You feel the flickers. You welcome the hum. You let the universe speak through its almost absence. And in that shimmer, you begin to feel a thought rising, not about space, not about matter, but about something even stranger, something that may not exist outside the silence at all. Perhaps our universe is just one petal in a larger bloom. What lies beyond, more somethings, or true nothing at last? You wander between theories where other realities sleep. Even here, the idea of nothing grows more elusive. You find yourself drifting again, not through space, but through possibility. Your thoughts rise gently, as if carried by a current, and you wonder, could this universe be only one of many? There is no rush here, only the quiet turning of questions in your mind. You remember standing in the vacuum chamber, watching nothingness shimmer with activity. And now, you tilt your head toward a larger emptiness, the space beyond space. You begin to imagine the multiverse. Not a single universe, but a vast garden of them. Each one blooming on its own branch. Each one with its own rules, its own physics, its own version of silence. Some scientists believe in this garden. They whisper of bubbles, forming and drifting, like dew on the surface of an unseen field. Each bubble, a universe. Some expand like ours. Some collapse. Some never begin at all. And between the bubbles, a stretch of nothing so wide, so blank, that it might never be touched, not by light, not by thought. Yet even there, emptiness doesn't feel empty. Not really. In some theories, space is like a foam, not smooth, but frothy, full of flickers, potential, shape, tiny geometries blinking in and out of existence at the smallest scales. Even what we call outside, the universe may not be outside at all. It may be underneath, behind, or beside, like pages in a closed book, where each story unfolds unaware of the others. You sit in this imagined library, running your fingers across covers you cannot open, and still, you wonder, what do the other pages contain? Are they strange or familiar? There could be a universe where light moves differently, where gravity is repelled instead of attracted, where stars are cold and time flows sideways. And maybe there are universes where nothing exists at all. No particles, no fields, no rules to follow. Just a void so complete, it holds not even the memory of creation. But here, again, the idea of perfect nothing begins to fray. Because even in the barest space, mathematics still whispers, symmetries still shimmer, and possibility still breathes. Think of the vacuum not as the absence of things, but as the groundwork for all things that might arise. Could a multiverse be just that? An infinite sea of foundations, waiting for the right condition, the right tremble, to become something? You close your eyes and drift further into the thought. The multiverse isn't just about other worlds. It's about the shape of possibility. itself. Each law of physics, might be just a note in a larger melody. And somewhere, other harmonies play, tuned different frequencies. You wonder what it would feel like for a consciousness to slip from one world to another. Would it feel like dreaming? Would it feel like waking? Would you know it had happened? Or is your mind already a multiverse? Thoughts layered over thoughts, realities nested inside awareness, each dream opening onto another? Because sometimes it's hard to tell where your imagination ends and something larger begins. Maybe that's the point. The more deeply you look into nothing, the more you find something waiting. Not a trick of perception, but a property of reality itself. It refuses to be empty. It resists silence. It resists stillness. It hums with the quiet confidence of a story not yet told. You sit there for a while, letting the mystery wash over you. Not needing answers. Just letting your thoughts wander through the spaces between realities. Because in the end, a multiverse is not just a theory. It is a way of seeing, of accepting that what you know may always be a tiny island in a vast ocean of unknown truths. And in that ocean, even the darkest waters may hold the shimmer of something more. So now you ask, if our universe is just one bloom in a larger cosmic field, what planted the seed? What soil does it grow in? And who or what can truly be said to watch it grow? You return to the space between thoughts, soft, still, and wide. Darkness is not absence, but invitation. You rest in the not knowing, where all begins. In the end, perhaps nothing is the beginning of wonder. You float quietly now, not through space, but through something more subtle, the pause between understanding. A gentle silence that is not empty, but full of listening. It is dark here, but not the dark of fear or forgetting. It is the darkness of deep soil, where seeds wait and stretch before breaking into light. You lie back inside this quiet and realize that darkness has always carried something sacred. In the beginning of the universe, it was darkness that wrapped around everything, before stars, before galaxies, before time had a name. Out of that darkness, a bloom of light appeared, a spark, a breath, an awakening. And so you wonder, was darkness the first canvas? The original invitation to create? Perhaps nothing is not the end of something, but the very beginning of everything. You feel this now as you rest in the soft unknown. Science has always explored this edge. Not just the things we can measure, but the spaces between them. Not just the stars we see, but the dark they shine into. And so, darkness becomes not a wall, but a window. A place to look through rather than stop at. There is a kind of courage in letting yourself not know, in floating in the unanswered, and allowing wonder to rise without a shape or name. This is where many great ideas begin. In the dim hush of awe. Question that hasn't yet bloomed into clarity. Think of the night sky, how it looks so still. But you know now, it's alive with expansion, motion, silence that hums with the birth of stars. Darkness is not the absence of activity. It is the space where activity prepares itself. It is potential, perfectly held. The womb is dark. The seed waits in darkness. The mind, too, needs a place to rest before it leaps again into insight. You rest here, not rushing to answers, not needing to name everything, just being with the beauty of not knowing. And the more you let go, the more you begin to feel it. This darkness isn't blindness. It is rich. It is full. It is the quiet underlayer of all that will one day appear. Science is sometimes thought of as light piercing through shadows. But often, it is the darkness that makes the light visible. In that contrast, truth gains shape. In that contrast, you gain wonder. You think of black holes now, those perfect pockets of mystery. Dark not because they are void, but because they hold so much they let nothing escape. Time bends there. Matter folds in on itself. Gravity deepens. And the laws you trust begin to waver. Black holes are not endings. They are thresholds, gateways, questions, wrapped in silence. Just like the one you rest inside now, there are things you may never know. There are answers that may always sleep just out of reach. And still, there is beauty in the reaching. In the space you hold open, so that new questions can take shape. You have spent this journey walking with ideas as if they were friends. Atoms, time, light, multiverse. And now you sit with their shadows, not to erase them, but to understand their depth. Because without darkness, there is no contour, no texture, no place to reflect the glimmer. The brain, too, needing sleep, understands this. Darkness is where it integrates. Dreams, memories, solutions that surface not through logic, but through stillness. This is where insight lives. Not always in the flash, but in the hush before it. A space where a breath is held. The moment before a word forms. The soft tension of waiting, not with impatience, but with peace. So you lie back now, suspended gently in a kind of cosmic breath. The universe inhales. You rest in that pause. And in doing so, you become part of something larger than explanation. You are not separate from the stars, or the seeds, or the black holes. You too are made of pause and wonder. And maybe this too is science. Not only what can be proved, but what can be felt, held, listened to, in the dark. You let your mind drift again, and this time, you do not search for light. You wait and let the darkness be beautiful, because it is here, in this wide, quiet space, that awe is born. And when awe arrives, it does not rush in. It tiptoes, like the first light across the horizon of an inner world. It glows, not to explain, but to remind you of the mystery that still surrounds everything.